Okay, so I came into Kerbal Space Program knowing only one thing. This game was going to be hard. The thing is though, if you warn me a game is hard, that just sells me on playing it more. Is it hubris that I think I am better than the average gamer? Is it fear that I am falling behind in my skills? Or am I just easily manipulated, that I feel the need to prove myself over something so mundane as the difficulty of a video game, which will have absolutely no impact in the actual world? While there is definitely some truth behind all of these statements, I think the underlying reason is probably shared with many of you. I like overcoming the challenges. Now, I normally try to review games after 10 hours of gameplay, but I am already in a weird state of limbo here. As much as I feel like it is an overused term, I really haven't even scratched the surface of what this game is with 10 hours. Still, Kerbal left me in a contradicting state of wanting to accomplish more, but already being ready to move on. Let's start off by introducing Kerbal Space Program, which is, well, I guess we'll call it a physics simulator with an in-game flight simulator with a large focus on rocketry. Although you can start building aeroplanes pretty early on too. I did find it hilarious that I was sending people to space before I was even taking my first inter-atmospheric flights though. Isn't that kind of learning to run before walking? Ironically, in a technically the truth kind of way, this is also true for in real life human flight. I mean, we have to ignore propeller-based flight, but rocket flight happened before jet flight. That's right, we're secretly making this review into a history lesson. Now, I don't know if it was just me, but actually flying these crafts is really difficult. I quickly realized I was going to require a Kerbal pilot for every flight, as the pilot helps stabilize the craft. And I guess that requirement makes sense. It isn't like everyone can just go out and fly planes. It takes time to learn how. But it also made me realize that I am not meant to be a pilot. I'm a little gutted realizing this, as I thought I was going to be an astronaut growing up. Still, you can sigh in relief knowing I won't be the guy flying your plane. Sending the rockets where I actually wanted them to go has been more dumb luck than actual skill on my part, and I never figured out why each flight has had so much variance between them, which is probably my biggest hang-up with Kerbal. The controls in and of themselves aren't too difficult to learn. Pitch controls up and down, yaw controls left and right, and roll spins the craft. Admittingly though, I would have been fine with the naviball marking all the cardinal directions, instead of just north and then degrees. I couldn't quite overcome if west or east was 90 degrees without thinking about it for a second or two, which meant a lot of corrections during flights that probably could have been avoided. I really feel like when it comes to building crafts, it was also just a long list of trial and error for me. And absolutely, that is how troubleshooting works. But similarly to controlling flights, I didn't get to a point where I felt building the crafts was making sense either. I would have a rocket work 3 times successfully, and on the 4th have something go wrong with the launch, and I couldn't tell you what variable I was missing that caused that problem. Now, I was still early into tech tree, and I think there are additional automations to simplify these tasks, but I also felt like the expectations of what I should be able to do with what I had wasn't quite balanced. And I was finding it increasingly more difficult acquiring science to better my crafts. This very much felt like I was brick-walled in progression. After feeling like I had come to a standstill with what I could accomplish with my rocketry, I decided to attempt the aeronautics part of Kerbal. Okay, Kerbal kind is just not meant for flight. Defeated, I decided to close the game and distract myself with some Reddit viewing. That's when I came across this. I laughed at how goofy this plane looked, but it also sparked a revelation. The Wright brothers had stupid nose wings too. Maybe there was something to this design. I can only tell you that my heart was in the right place, as I didn't get footage of more failures, but I did feel things were almost there. Eventually I broke down and watched another Kerbal player's intro to flight video. explaining what canards are, which is possibly the most fitting name ever. A funny word for a funny looking plane part. I also learned how, in creation, to view center of weight and lift, and that I would need elevons on my wings. While it still took some experimentation, Kerbals would in fact be able to crash land planes. Still, again I ran into the inconsistency with takeoffs, just as I did with rockets. And then there were the few times I actually did successfully land, and not being able to bring the plane to a complete stop. So this was about where I decided to end my time with KSP. And quick note, I'm sure at this point in the video, I have shown plenty of the shader issues, but I didn't put any sort of effort into addressing them, and I can't mark it against KSP if I was the one being too lazy to address the problem. But I'll just say there may or may not be weird shader issues with this game. So after 10 hours of gameplay, I both recommend Kerbal Space Program, while realizing it isn't the right game for me currently. If you are someone willing to entirely immerse yourself in a game, learning its engine, and possibly spending a lot of time out of game, learning how to take on the many challenges, then I think this would be an excellent game for you. While I find it hard leaving KSP in such an unexplored state, I just can't devote the time needed to take this game any further. I definitely could have used more in-game feedback of what I was or wasn't doing right, but that first time getting a plane to fly, or a rocket out of the Kerbin atmosphere, really were great gaming moments I think people should experience. Thanks for watching.